Hey everybody, Ryan here at eTrailer. Today on our 2019 Jeep Wrangler, we're going to be showing you how to install the Roadmaster Direct-Connect baseplate kit. But before we get into that, why don't we just take a minute, check this out, and make sure it's going to be the right setup for you. Whenever you're not flat towing, this is what your Jeep's going to look like, and I feel like it's important to address that because chances are pretty good you're probably not always going to be hooked up, right? And honestly, I don't really think it looks too bad at all. You know, just about anything you put on a Jeep kind of looks right at home, and that kind of holds true with this. You know, doesn't really stand out by any means, you know. I do like the fact that they give you a bracket here, which allows you to mount up your wiring and some of your other components, which makes it really convenient when you're setting everything up. That way you don't have to worry about, you know, building something on your own and things like that. Something else that's really important too is how easy is the setup going to be to use whenever you are ready to hook up. And so everything's easy to get to, you know, in the open. The kit has these removable arms, and so all you're going to have to do when you are ready to set up here is push these in, rotate them about a quarter turn, and they'll lock into place. And then that'll give you a way, or an attachment point rather, to be able to hook your tow bar up. This base plate is going to work with Roadmaster tow bars, so it's going to go in, you'll pin them in there. And it can work with other manufacturers as well. Some of the newer type ones come with the correct end on it already, but you can also get adapters, which allows you to change out the end of your tow bar to pair up with this type of base plate. So pretty much covered regardless, you know. I will say one thing to look out for when it comes to these Jeeps is there's so many different configurations, you know, different bumper types and rock guards and things of that nature. This base plate is going to work with the majority of them, but I still always recommend whenever we're dealing with the Jeep to check our fit guide, really go through it and make sure you punch in the right stuff that you have. That way you get the correct base plate that'll fit. So before we get started, figure we touch base on this real quick. There's going to be a total of 5 main components that you're going to need to flat tow your Jeep down the road. And usually we like to be all set up behind the motorhome and everything. We got some bad weather today, so bear with us. But first one will be the base plate, and that's going to provide us with an attachment point. That way we can hook our tow bar up to it. So the tow bar is going to be that second piece that connects the front of your Jeep to the back of your motorhome. Third main part will be safety cables. So these will connect to the base plate and to the back of your motorhome's hitch, and those are there in the event of unlikely disconnect. They keep everything paired together. Fourth main part will be your tow bar wiring. What that'll do is plug into the front of your Jeep and into the back of your motorhome, and that's going to transfer all the lighting functions back so people know what's going on whenever you're towing down the road. And last but not least, the fifth main part will be a supplemental braking system. And what this is going to do is apply the brakes in your Jeep whenever you hit the brakes in your RV, helping to bring you to a more safe and predictable stop. Other than that though, you know, at the end of the day, a nice base plate setup. You know, it looks good, easy to use, and you know, not too bad to install actually. It's something you can probably do at home. It won't take too long, not super involved. So as long as you take your time, you should be in pretty good shape. But if you'd like to follow along, feel free to. We'll go ahead and set it up together now. To begin our installation, we're going to be here at the front of our Jeep, and over on the passenger side, kind of just behind our bumper, there's going to be an electrical connector that we need to disconnect. And here's this connector. You can push down on that tab there and separate the two ends. At this point, we can remove our rock guard. So on each side of it, you're going to have an 8mm head screw. So remove that. Then on each side of it as well, you're going to have 4 push pin style fasteners. You can take a trim tool or even a flathead screwdriver, just pry underneath the head until it comes out, and then you can work the base out as well. So I'm just going to, you know, work along our edge here and get all of them out. And with all those removed, you can now drop this down and set it off to the side. You can remove this piece here. So on each side, you're going to have a 16mm head bolt. Got that one out. I already did the other one, and then you can just kind of tap up on it until it comes off. On top of your bumper, on each side, you're gonna have one plastic push pin fastener. And with these, since they're kind of buried down in there a little bit, a lot of times it's almost easier with the flathead screwdriver. These will work very similar to the others, you know, just pry up on the head. And then you can pull the whole thing out. Moving back to this piece of metal that we removed earlier. So we're gonna cut the tabs off of it. So this portion here, and bolt them back up. That way our rot guard, or the little plastic shield, has something to bolt to. So I'm just gonna cut the section out on each side, like it says in the instructions. I'm gonna use a Sawzall. You can use a Dremel tool or grinding wheel, whatever you got to get this done. You take the pieces that we modified, and they give you a new bolt, and we're just going to put them right back in place and tighten them down. Now we can remove our bumper beam. So there's going to be 4 nuts on each side of the vehicle. So these 2, and then 2 just like it, and on the other side of our frame. And we're going to get those removed using an 18mm size socket. What I usually like to do is leave at least one on hand tight on each side. That way when we get all of them removed, you know, the bumper's not going to fall off and hit us. We can come back while we have it supported, remove that, and be able to take it off. So I got our Jeep loader down. I removed those 2 remaining nuts that I had on hand tight. Now you can work off the bumper and set it to the side. On each side of our frame rail, we're going to have a bumper stiffener, I believe they call it. Essentially, it's just this little bracket. We're going to get it removed. So 16mm head bolt. Pull this stuff out, set it to the side, and do the same thing to get all the remaining pieces removed. We're going to need to do some drilling to get our base plate to fit. So we're going to have this hole on our frame. Need to enlarge it to 9/16, and this one you want to go all the way through to the other side. So take our bit and get that drilled out. So you got that one drilled out. You can do the same thing with this existing hole right here. Just going to enlarge it to the proper size. At this point, you can grab your base plate, and these are side specific, so check the instructions, make sure you have the right one. And if you want to, where you drilled, you can take a paint stick or spray paint and cover up the bare metal to keep it protected from rust. But you'll take the base plate and work it up into position here. Line it up with the existing holes that were threaded that held our little brackets on there. Take the OEM hardware and just get these started hand tight. That way the base plate will kind of support itself while we work on the rest of the bolts. The hardware that you're going to use up here, you can take a long bolt, put on a flat washer, and put red Loctite on the threads. All the hardware that we're going to use to secure the base plate will receive some of this red Loctite. On the top though, you're going to have these spacers. That's going to go in between like that. Run the bolt through. Before the bolt passes out of this side of the frame, you're going to take another spacer, feed it through, get it through the base plate, put on a flat washer, a split lock washer, and a hex nut. This one down here, you're just going to take another long bolt, flat washer, your red Loctite, and feed that through all the way out to the other side. Where it comes on out, just like the one above it, put on a flat washer, split lock washer, and the hex nut. For this hole here, you're going to take this handle nut, put it up from the bottom. And it's going to sit behind it, and you're going to take this bolt, split lock washer, and a flat washer and thread that in with a Loctite. You may have to take a file or grinding bit and just kind of open that up a little bit to get it started, or make it a little bit easier to get started rather. So we'll line that on up and get it in place. With all that hardware started, I pulled these back out and put some red Loctite on the threads, put them back in, and now we can come back with a 3/4 inch or inch in socket. These will use a 16 and snug everything down. At this point, we can come back with a torque wrench and tighten down all of the hardware to the amount specified in the instructions. At this point, it'd be a great time to start setting up some of your other flat towing components like your wiring or braking system. And I say it because you got all this extra room to work. On these Jeeps, usually you can do a few things and then get the bumper back on because you kind of need the bumper to mount some of that stuff up. But I'm going to kind of get some of our wiring going and whatnot. And then we can come back and I'll show you how to wrap everything up. Just get the bumper reinstalled, do a little trimming, and that'll kind of finish up the base plate. So now that we got some of our other components set up, we can go ahead and get our bumper beam back on, and this is just going to slide into place. Sometimes it might be necessary to kind of, bend the base plate a little bit to line it up with the original mounting points, but once you get it going, it usually slides right into place here. With the bumper on, now we can trim out our rock guard. So there's a diagram in the instructions that'll give you some measurements. So I marked that out, and we can radius these edges and the corners to kind of make it look a little bit better. So I'm going to take a hole saw and drill through. Give me a nice clean round edge there. Do the same thing on this side. And then I'll just come back and cut the remaining portion out with a Dremel tool. You could probably use a jigsaw or whatever you see fit. Get this out of the way, and then if you want, you can come back with a hand file or a razor edge or something and clean up these rough edges. Got both of these openings cut out and then just reinstalled our rock guard the opposite way that we removed it. Went up there pretty good. I think it looks pretty good. They do give you this wiring bracket here and a little bit of hardware if you decide to use it. That just kind of bolts right up into place. And I set up my braking system, breakaway switch while I was at it as well. So with this all done, that's really about it. And that'll finish up our look at and our installation of the Roadmaster Direct-Connect baseplate kit on our 2019 Jeep Wrangler.